What are clinical trials? Simply put, clinical trials are not animal research. They're not test tube research. Clinical trials are human research. That means people like you. You may be wondering, why would someone participate in a clinical trial? Well, there are lots of reasons. You may want to help others who have the same disease. You may be able to access newer treatments. And there may be financial considerations as well. But for any of these reasons, there are thousands of ongoing clinical trials in the United States. Trials can have a single location or even hundreds. If you're wondering how many people are in each trial, the answer is, it depends. A small percentage of trials are quite small, needing fewer than 20 participants. Among other trials, they're pretty equally divided among those needing 20 to 100, 100 to 1,000, even those that need more than 1,000 participants. All these ongoing trials need people to participate. A lot of people. There are generally considered to be two types of clinical trials. The first type is called interventional. These interventional trials might be researching medications, which might even be taken by injection. They're looking at new medical devices or even surgical procedures. The other type of trials is called observational. In these types of trials, you might be asked lots of questions, and unfortunately, you might not escape the needle if they need to draw your blood. When most people think of trials, they think of interventional trials. That said, because observational trials tend to need a lot more participants, there are actually more people needed for these than for interventional trials. When you look at who runs these trials, about half of interventional trials are sponsored by private industry. For observational trials, it's only about 1/5. The remainder of these trials are sponsored by universities, nonprofit organizations, or the government. Another question people often have is, what are the phases of clinical trials? Phases of trials generally refer to new drugs in development. The first phase, phase 1, tend to be small trials that focus on safety and dosage. Phase 2 trials are medium-sized, trying to determine if the drug is effective. Phase 3 trials can be quite large and are often comparing the new medication to other available treatments. Finally, Phase 4 trials are for drugs that have already been approved by the FDA. Additional research is being done to better understand the risks and benefits. It's important to know, however, that many trials have no phase at all. These trials may be observational, researching already approved drugs, or a variety of other types of trials. Although some trials don't have a phase, every trial has inclusion and exclusion criteria. These are the requirements for participating in that particular trial. There are many different types of criteria for trials: that you're on a certain medication, or that you're not on a certain medication, or that you're a woman, or maybe even that you're a pirate. There are all sorts of criteria that a trial might have, and it's important to understand what they are to determine if you're eligible. We have to admit, we haven't seen any pirate trials yet. Are you worried about just getting a placebo? It's important to understand that you'll either be receiving the standard therapy for your diagnosis plus the new therapy, or you'll be receiving the standard therapy alone. If you need a certain medication, the folks running the trial are going to make sure you continue to receive that medication. Clinical trials ensure that participants receive at least the standard of care. Every clinical trial has an institutional review board, or an IRB. This is a collection of people that includes physicians, scientists, even representatives from the community that examine the protocol for a clinical trial. They ensure that the risks are as low as possible and worth any potential benefits. In every trial, it's important that participants be able to give their informed consent. This is an important term in clinical trials that means you're able to understand the key facts about the trial, so you can make an informed decision whether or not you want to participate. And even if you decide to participate in a clinical trial, remember you always have the right to leave a trial at any time, for any reason. In a survey of patients who had previously participated in a clinical trial, this one for diabetes, participants were asked if they'd recommend it to others. The overwhelming majority, 88%, said yes. The rest were unsure, and very few said no. We hope this answers some of your questions about clinical trials. If you're interested in finding out more or identifying clinical trials that might be right for you, click on the More Info button on this page. Thanks.